connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network, and today's topic is slowing down. I'm excited to explore this. This has been something that I've been entertaining for myself and looking at how that what that looks like in my life and how pervasive this notion of constant motion is for so many of us. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to just get settled in and present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clear, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your organs, all your cells, and bringing vital life energy throughout your body and being. And now, as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress, any toxins, any negativity. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out and electrifying your molecules and your electrons and just brightening you from the inside out, beaming you out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any negativity, any remaining toxins, and relax, relax, relax. Now let's just gently press our palms together. Softly rub your fingers against your palms and feel that wonderful, wonderful sensation. And so, welcome, welcome. Hello, Andrea. Welcome. So glad to have you here with us today. Today's topic is slowing down. So I've been reading a book. I just started reading a book called Slow Money, and I forget the person's first name, but the last name is Tash, I believe. And it's really, really, really interesting to look at how the velocity of our lives is expressed in every aspect, in our work, in our play, in our necessity to do things, and with the speed, like even driving. This was an example in the book that I thought was really interesting, how our speed limits have increased, which I appreciate because it helps us to get places more quickly, right? Or being speed oriented. um, when we speed up, we're less able to really take in our surroundings. And this is a perfect metaphor for speed and doingness as a rule, efficiency, and it carries, the metaphor carries across a lot of different areas. So when we're driving fast, we don't really get to connect with the scenery. We don't really get to see the detail of what's going on. And we're really moving through rather than being connected to. And I think that we can carry that over into day-to-day life as well, where we're we're hurrying up. We are uh, increasing the amount of things we do, the efficiency with which we do them, the productivity. Like, it's all about productivity and efficiency, and more is better, and get this done fast so that we can then go on to the next thing that we can do fast, et cetera, et cetera. And what we sacrifice is the quality of our lives and actually living, because we become a human doing rather than a human being. And I think that one of the gifts for many of us of COVID is that it's given us the opportunity to slow down and take a pause with a lot of these things that we were doing, and running. Uh, because when we were doing, and running, we didn't have the opportunity to really look at what our priorities were and what the consequences were of the the doingness that we'd become. And there are so many consequences in our economy, in our lifestyles, fast food. Let's talk about fast food. Certainly, it's wonderful to have the convenience of something that you can pop into the oven or on the stove, or for some people in the microwave. But let's look at the consequence of this fast food. So, fast food, as good morning, Isabel. Welcome. So glad to have you here. We're talking about slowing down and how slowing down is not well regarded in our culture, but is maybe the thing that will offer us salvation as a culture and as individuals too. We experience such anxiety in our momentum to get more done in a day. It's all about more and better, because more is better, right? And so I'm here talking today about less is more. So we were talking about fast food, and yes, fast food enables you to dispense with meals more quickly so that you can get on to the more important things, in big air quotes. Whereas eating is our sustenance, right? Eating is where we get to ingest life, right? Whether it's it's where we nourish and nurture ourselves. So let's talk about fast food itself. It's often denatured food so that it stays on the shelves longer, so that it is preserved longer, meaning that the nourishment is probably less. It's often packaged. Well, it's packaged. Elaine, welcome. So glad to have you here. So Elaine says, yes, mindful choices for one's wellness in the now. Beautiful. Yes. For one's wellness in the now. Beautiful. I'm thinking that's what you said. Thank you, Elaine. Yes. So let's just look at the consequences. Isabel says, yes, very exhausted of these fast mode of lives. Me too. And I think that that's actually a very prevalent state of affairs for most people, is being truly exhausted. And then anxiety around productivity, etc., is really also extremely common. Like, I can't get everything done that I need to do. Well, let's just slow down. And Tammy says, Maggie's back. Yay. Good morning, Mira. Yeah, I have a feeling that Maggie's now the star of the show, which is awesome. Good morning, Dido. Great to have you here. So let's just get back to this fast food thing, because this is a really good example of the consequences of everything moving so fast. So fast food is great because it enables us to dispense with meals more quickly. We and get on with the things that are quote unquote more important. So what's the consequence? Well, digestion probably is one consequence. The quality of the food itself is another consequence, because this food has largely been denatured in order to be preserved for us to be able to have it on demand, right? So it's in the freezer, or it's in a can, or it's in some kind of plastic container. So all this packaging has a consequence too, to our environment, because why? It creates trash, and we have mounting amounts of trash that is single-use waste that is using up resources and going into landfill and polluting our environment, and making our waterways less wholesome, and polluting our soils. The practices with which we produce the volumes of food that are then packaged are not necessarily ecological. and are destructive to the soil and the atmosphere. The shipping for this packaged food is more because more than if we were preparing food ourselves, because even the way that we get food that's not processed, it's been shipped, so there's all kinds of costs and energy associated with transporting that food. So if it gets transported to a manufacturing facility, then it has to get transported again to the store, and then it gets transported again to us. And there are costs involved, both environmental and literal, financial. And there's also lots and lots of food waste in the process of manufacturing. So all of this because we're going so fast, right? There's a demand for fast food because we're prioritizing other things. And what's at stake in so many ways is our physical health, so our physiological health, our mental health, our emotional well-being, and all of this because we have to move so fast. So if we're cooking for ourselves, we're slowing down the process, we're connecting more to our nourishment. We're able to pour love into that food, and we can have meals together, or meals that we can presence ourselves to, rather than shoving something into our faces and then going on to the next thing. And therefore, if we are able to do that, if we're able to slow down and just eat and enjoy our food, then we're being nourished on so many different levels, and our physiology is better able to absorb and utilize the nutrients that are available in those foods. So that's one example. Elaine says yes. So there is, when we start talking about mindfulness, we get to look at our practices in our lives and what we prioritize. And it's not surprising that with COVID, many people have done much more cooking. And why? It can be a family activity. It can be just meditative and nurturing. Maggie's happy. So, it can be, for me anyway, cooking allows me to get connected with my senses, and I enjoy the sounds and the smells and the visuals, and the actual kinesthetic, the feelings of cutting things and cooking things and stirring things. And so it's a sensual pleasure. It's a way to connect with life, like as a fundamental thing. So Isabel says a preparation of a meal and a meal is a ritual. And Elaine says the bird agrees with you. Yes, this is Maggie. She's, hi, Maggie. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. She's less than a year old, so she's just learning. She's learning everything and tasting everything, and I can take a clue from Maggie. She tastes everything. Like she is exploring everything, and um, when we are so busy. Elaine says, hi, Maggie. When we are so busy, focused on efficiency and productivity, it's often, hello, Rosalind, welcome. So glad to have you here. So when we focus on productivity and efficiency, it's often at the expense of our well-being. We'll push the extra mile or extra hour to get something done because we have a deadline. I get that. I've had deadlines and I do that. And I recognize more and more the cost of that. And so rather than having the need to do all the things, to uh, to do everything because more is better, then we can instead start focusing on the things that are most significant to us. Sometimes the thing that's most significant and the most essential is rest. And I know that for me right now, I've come to really, really recognize how important rest and restoration is for me. And I'm guessing that's true for you as well. Isabel says, and it's important to take it as an important family moment. That's mealtime. Yes. And you know, when we think of a meal as something that we have to do, like we have to eat to survive or whatever, or as something that is dispensable, like I didn't do anything today, but I cooked an amazing meal. Well, that's not doing nothing. We were talking about self-nurturing a bit yesterday when we were talking about courage. So a meal is an important thing, and it's also a gift. There are so many people who don't have enough food. And so we get to really relish that experience because it connects us to our senses and our biology and each other. And good morning, Rosalind. Welcome, welcome. Rosalind says hi, Maggie. So let's look at other places that we can look at slowing down. And Isabel says, and it starts by making the time to shop for healthy foods. Yes. So when we talk about shopping, that's an experience too. Yesterday I was in Trader Joe's and they were really crowded and there were lines of people. So we had an opportunity to talk to people in the line. And there was a guy, Maggie, no, gentle. There was a guy who had come in for a snack, and Trader Joe's has all kinds of organic food and fruits and vegetables. And out of all these foods, it was so interesting that the food that the person chose for their snack was Cheetos, sort of type chips or snack, and iced tea. And I thought, wow, out of all of the things that are available here, look what we tend to choose as a snack to feed ourselves, to nourish ourselves. Elaine says, yes, absolutely. Rest allows the body to do its part in this human experience. Yes, indeed. And, you know, I had this very, very long drive. I drove for more than 40 hours over the course of 5 days, where I had one day in between. And I got home Saturday and I'm still recovering. But yesterday I kind of hit the wall and just realized, oh my gosh, I am tired to the point of tears. And I went to bed at 6 p.m. and stayed in bed until 6:30 this morning. And I still get to catch up on more sleep. So Isabel says, now, shopping for healthy foods takes time. So this is the thing. We get to slow down, and shopping for healthy foods can be something that also nourishes and nurtures us. It doesn't have to be just one more thing or an inconvenience. We can look at all these other organizations again because things are going so fast, right? That make prepared foods or send boxes of produce, and there's pros and cons to that. I mean, if you can't go shopping for produce and you don't have a source, for instance, for organic produce, then maybe buying these pre-prepared boxes of like ugly food sometimes, ugly fruit, ugly vegetables. And what I mean by ugly is vegetables that don't conform to the standard that the grocery stores use. These are foods that are often wasted. So or go to landfill. So rather than those foods going to landfill, you can have them delivered. And there's the cost of delivery, and there's the cost of the packaging, and there's the waste of the packaging. So there are all those things to consider. So Isabel says, because to cook healthy, we need time to think what we're going to cook and after to go get the stuff. Absolutely. And the thing is that I don't know about you, but I have tended to make the grocery shopping and the meal preparation. In the past, I've tended to make those things chores rather than rituals, rather than something that nourishes me. And I think that we can choose to be more mindful about those practices and allow ourselves to use them to connect more deeply. And someone from, I think, Periscope says, worse than any is high fructose corn syrup, but it's easier to talk about food. So you bring up a point, actually. If we're going to talk about food, high fructose corn syrup is in so many things. Do yourself a favor, go do a little bit of research on it. It doesn't get processed well by our bodies. It also is probably created from corn that's grown with a GMO seed that has a Roundup Ready glyphosate component to it, and there are lots of dangers to it. So it's in a lot of processed foods. So the thing that I understand in terms of wellness, I didn't expect this to become a food conversation particularly, but the thing that I understand in terms of wellness is that the lower we eat on the food chain, the better off we are. And the healthier we have potential to be, which means the less processed foods that we consume, the better off we'll be too, because our bodies are not being bombarded with all the chemicals and additives that are not essential to our well-being. So the theme here today is slowing down. And I realize that we often run life like a marathon, where we're just pushing and pushing and pushing. And what I think might be a better perspective, and I'm considering this for myself, to look at. I think that there can be sprints. I think sprints are probably really positive, and sprint, rest and recover, sprint, rest and recover, maybe. And maybe there's also a place to be able to get a pace and to find a pace that works, a pace that includes rest and relaxation. It's all a new a new pattern for me to be finding these places in my life to really find positive, consistent self-care. And I invite you to engage in that for yourselves as well. There's a lot in the world going on, a lot of input in the world going on to become stressed or anxious about. And the more we take care of ourselves, and I think that slowing down is a big part of it, the more we take care of ourselves, the better equipped we'll be to respond rather than react to the evolving circumstances of our world. So I'm not sure who this is from Periscope, but they're saying, I'm praying for Mother Earth to put things right again. Well, I think that that's part of what is going on with COVID. Nature is giving us an opportunity to right ourselves and evolve. I think that the planet, Mother Earth, is going to be okay. We may make it a place that's uninhabitable for humans and the life forms that we know, but the Earth herself is going to be okay. And nature will win out. So that's why I love animals more than humans. They're honest and loyal. Well, animals are authentic, right? Animals are authentically themselves. And I have tended to have closer relationships with animals in my life than with most humans as well. Animals have been my best friends too, I have to say, although I am blessed to have some wonderful people in my life. So Elaine says, to bring joy to what we are doing in the now. That's exactly what we're up to. Creates a beautiful experience and a desire to live for our heart's well-being. Exactly. And the thing is that all this productivity and all this activity and all this doing, in the grand scheme of things, is like, what for? You know, let's create. What we get to create is quality of life. And if humanity can learn to live for quality of life, what that will mean is that we take better care of nature, that we take better care of ourselves, that we don't chase more and more things as the things that are important, that we don't have to accumulate more and more money, more and more things, just exploit the soil to make more plants that are less nutritious, that are part of an industry rather than a life source. So, you know, this book, I'll go back to speak it again, is called Slow Money. And it's so interesting because it's talking not just about money, but about how we have monetized and disconnected ourselves from our food source and from the land, and which is the very, very source of our life. And as such, we have tried to commodify it, and we have tried to maximize its output at the expense of its wholesomeness, really. And how, if we're to save ourselves, human beings on the planet, and to save the environment that sustains us and so many other life forms, that we need to be putting our attention on the quality of the soil. And that means the literal soil that we grow things in. It's not just dirt that holds roots. It's a whole biosphere with all kinds of living organisms, bacteria and mycelium and and all kinds of things that sustain the life of the plants that are planted in it. If we don't maintain that soil or restore that soil, we are going to be in we're not in a great place. We will be destroying, and we have been destroying, the source of our nourishment, right? And we can also use the soil as a metaphor for ourselves. So if we do not preserve the soil, meaning preserve our well-being, then we can't be present to the requirements of life. And Elaine says, to bring joy to what says, I love human beings and animals. I love all life with all that I am. So grateful to be here in this now experience. I appreciate that with you, Elaine, very much, very, very much. I have a love for human beings. I don't have a love for what we've done to this planet and what we do to each other and to nature and to the other living creatures on it. And so we get to re-educate ourselves and reorient ourselves in order to be able to come forward into a future that we can actually live in, let alone thrive in. So our Periscope person says, I have no children. I've done my part for population control, more so than anyone with children. Apparently, 7 billion humans produce a lot of plastic bottles. Well, it's not 7 billion humans that produce the plastic bottles. It's the 7 billion humans that use them. But it's what we get to do is to find a new option for these plastic bottles that are going to be around for hundreds, if not thousands of years, until we find a solution to recycle them or create something new from them. And this is all part of going so fast too, is everything's on the go. Immediate gratification. And I think that we can all take an opportunity to look at the ways in which we can individually slow down and give ourselves the nourishing and the nurturing that we need, and to be more conscientious about, or more mindful about, our choices and the consequences of our choices. And Elaine says, yes, I can change without judgments and show up to serve. And I do. Yes. Judgment. I think we've talked about compassionate presence, to recognize where people are. There is I think what we get to do is talk about judgment another day for sure, because that's a really interesting topic, because we're always making judgments. And the question is, maybe, what is our attachment to the judgments that we make? And how much we can evolve in the face of our judgments. And Elaine says, I love hanging out with you all. Well, I love it too. I really, really love and appreciate the interaction with you all and the opportunity to be talking about these topics, because I don't think that these are really common conversations. And I think they're important conversations in our path to awakening and evolving together. So with that, I invite you to find some places where you can slow down, smell the roses. And I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. This is Maggie. And I'm here every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, going live on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. So I so appreciate you. And I hope that I will see you again here really soon. And until then, slow down, smell the roses,